Hello, my quilting friends. My name is Leah Day, and welcome back to the Friendship Quilt Along. Today, I'm quilting block number 8 on my long arm, and I decided to stitch it up a notch with a super spiral and beautiful lines of echo quilting using my slice quilting ruler. So let's jump on the machine and learn how to quilt this together. So I'm getting started quilting this block, and I've decided to fill the center section with a super spiral. Now normally this wouldn't be possible. I wouldn't be able to quilt this entire thing, but on the Grace Qnique 21 I have enough space to quilt this all in one frame. Basically I have enough space here. I'm going to get a little bit close on this bottom edge, but I have already tested it and made sure I can quilt this outer edge. Now if you're on a smaller frame, you might mark it and only quilt half of it and then pull up thread and match up the other half. If you're on a home sewing machine, I would recommend doing this with a walking foot. Okay, so I've pulled up threads here in the center. I'm going to get started, and it doesn't matter which way I spin this spiral, unlike a home sewing machine, because I'm just starting in the center and stitching outward, and it's just how I move the machine around. So I think this is a counterclockwise spiral. That's a-okay. And I'm just trying to take it slow and easy and move my thread tails out of the way. I think I'll stop and bury those just so that they're out of my way and I don't have to take my hands off the frame. Okay, click the machine back on, get back to quilting. And I'm going to try and keep this roughly on about 1.5 inches. Well, it's about 1.25 inches scale. And, you know, if I really wanted that to be perfect, I should have marked it to start with. So I'm going to allow it to be a little wiggly wobbly. Obviously I can't really control it, and I think that if I had the line there I might be trying to focus so much on the line that would make things more difficult. As it is, I'm actually really pleased with this, and you know, this month has all been about, you know, embracing imperfection and allowing something to be exactly how it ends up and not obsessing about it when things don't turn out exactly the way you expect. And please understand, you know, you can always stitch it up a notch. You do your spiral on your quilt and you feel like it's too plain, you can always go back inside of it and do some wiggly flame shapes. I call that flame spiral. You could go inside with some circles. You could go inside and do personalization again. You could write more names in your quilt in cursive. That would be kind of cool. So yeah, just remember that you can always stitch it up a notch. You can always throw more thread at it and really make your block as special as you like. Now I've been slowly widening this line. Kind of didn't really mean to do that, so I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to try and keep it consistent. About 1.5 inches now, and I have about space for one more line coming on the other end. So let's see if I can keep this even. What I'm focusing on now is I'm looking at that halfway point between the line before and the ditch here on the outside, and I'm just trying to stay right in the middle of it. And then here I want to be careful because I know the edge of my frame. I can't stitch all the way down here. So I'm going to get to about right there. Almost done. And yeah, I think I'm just going to stop right here. And that's a good place to stop. So I decided to do some ruler quilting for this background, and the first thing I'm doing is some echo ditching. Just placing this straight line ruler right along the ditch, and then letting the foot run right against that. Now that adds 1/4 inch to the spacing on the needle. So this is 1/4 inch ditching, and I just think that looks so nice right there, right around that. Now I'm getting just a little bit of difficulty. You can see that back slope of that foot, and I can actually adjust the height of that foot. So I'm going to do that real quick here, so that way I don't have to worry about going at that angle with my ruler foot and the ruler. So that is just something that you might have to do. The 21 has an ever so slightly different foot attachment. And I could even take this and rotate it around so it's pointing in a different direction if I wanted to. But that was just one of those things that I needed to adjust, obviously, especially if I have the ruler here to the back of the foot. Now, I know I can't quilt that entire thing, that entire design, echo ditching all the way around that circle in one pass, so I decided to break this up into quarters. And this is a good idea just in general. Whenever you're quilting something bigger than your frame, break down that space into quarters, and then you can quilt a quarter of it or even half of it. In this case, I can quilt half of this design before I have to change things up. Now, I accidentally went all the way to the line, whereas before I had done something a little different. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to leave it in. I'm just going to stitch on the line. That's okay. This is one of those things, you might have a plan and it might be established nicely in another area of the quilt. When you stitch away from it, you kind of forget what you did. And that's exactly what I just did right now. Okay, so now I'm spacing out 3/4 of an inch. So I am lining up the line. It's an etched line on the ruler that is 2 from the edge. So that is a 1/2 of an inch on the ruler, and then I'm adding another 1/4 inch with the foot. Everything with ruler foot quilting is based on the lines etched on the ruler or the edge of the ruler itself. And this is what is really nice, is that it just helps you get really gorgeous spacing, whether you're wanting to quilt on a 1/4 inch scale, a 1/2 inch scale. In this case, 3/4 of an inch I think is really nice. It's nice and soft. I'm pushing that forward. I think I'm getting some impact just from seam allowance. I'm not really sure exactly what's doing it, but I'm noticing it just in this corner of the block. You can see I kind of stitched forward just a bit, almost a 1/4 of an inch further than I wanted to, and that's okay. Again, you can get obsessive about this stuff. Get obsessive about the lines being just exactly right, absolutely perfectly spaced, completely even, no wibbles, wobbles, all that kind of good stuff. But it really doesn't take into account the fact that a human being stitched it. And I want that, in this case, I want it to be a little bit obvious. This wasn't quilted by a machine, that I did the quilting, and I am okay with that. I'm okay with that being imperfect right there. So here we go. I'm going to get back on track with nice 3/4 inch space lines. And here's another thing that I've noticed. When you put several lines and stack several lines together, it becomes far less noticeable that you've got a little blip, you got a little mistake there. Not a big deal. And I'm just eyeballing this, as far as these direction changes go. Here I can see I undershot that, so I'm going to just use the ruler to nudge it. I just needed to nudge it forward by about 2 stitches, and that was fine. There we go. I just eyeball about a 1/2 of an inch to the right or directly behind the needle, and that works out great. So here I'm going to come up, again, visualizing that 1/2 inch before I move my ruler. Here I had to take another stitch back, and then eventually I'm going to get to a point where I just go back and forth with diagonals across this area. Yeah, I overshot that again. As you can see, there's a certain kind of flexibility with this. Even though they are parallel lines, and even though, certainly they should kind of be straight and even and perfectly spaced, it doesn't look that bad when there's a little bit more space between some of the lines and a little bit less space between others. And it just seems like for this block in particular, I don't know why, but I was just a little bit less concerned with the perfection side of things. Okay, looks like I've got one more. This is one of those tricky things, like I only need to stitch in that much, so really, in all honesty, that's probably going to get cut off whenever I go to bind the quilt and put the pieces together. Now I change the direction, and I'm probably going to finish off the corner from here, just stitching back and forth across that corner. I'm going to try and keep it straight. Now here's what's interesting, and I noticed this more than once, and that was even when on one side, I was kind of like, I didn't need to stitch this line on the other corner. I don't know really why that happened, like how my spacing was off, but it still looks great, so I'm okay with that. There we go. And remember also, as you go along the outer edge of the block, going ahead and give that just a little travel stitch. You can see here I'm just edge stitching that along the edge of the block, and I do that, it's kind of like a victory lap, just keeps everything secured, stops everything from fraying. Your best thing to do with these blocks until you're completely done with all of them is to just keep them in a bin and not, not overly handle them. That can cause the edges to fray. So by stitching along that edge, you're securing it, making sure that it's not going to fray badly. Okay, so from here, all I'm going to do is just continue to line up my ruler, that edge line 2 from the edge, with the line of quilting from before. Use that to guide nice straight lines right across this corner, just like so. So that's it for this video. I hope you learned a lot and you're excited about giving it a try. If you'd like to find the pattern for this beautiful Patchy Octagon block, you can find it at leahday.com/friendship. Now, if you'd like to learn more about my Grace Qnique 21, or the continuum frame that I'm quilting on, you can find that at leahday.com/21. Yes, I am a dealer for Grace Company, and I absolutely love quilting on this long arm and this frame, which has grown with me as I have changed machines. So come and check it out, and don't forget to use the coupon code Hello My Quilting Friends to save $100 on your long arm or frame purchase. Until next time, let's go quilt!